Okay, so this is a quick update on the knife design that I've been working on. I've got version 1 on the left here in the green and version 2 here on the right with the black. So the main things that I got from a feedback video by Paddy's Potato Peelers gave me some advice on how I should reform the shape of the handle and a couple other features that needed to be strengthened on the second version. So in version 1 you can see the handle is much more curved down here, and it's also a lot wider from this main point to the main point of the blade there, whereas here it's a lot smaller in diameter on these ends. This makes it easier to go in and out of the pocket as it's not as wide in that direction. And it also means there's more hand space as well, so it fits a larger hand, even though the handle itself is actually smaller in footprint. It allows for a larger hand to fit more comfortably. In terms of the fit and finish, you can see that the finish is much better on version 2. I'll just quickly zoom in for you. So you can see on the left there's a little bit of space between parts, whereas on the new version there's no gapping at all. This was done by making sure that the scales, when glued to the handle material, was a lot tighter, and it was gripped in a vise overnight to make sure that it stayed completely flat. This allowed it to be much easier to get everything completely flush. The second bit of feedback was on the half stop here, where there was an issue on version 1 where in the second position, or the half stop position, it didn't really click, it sort of mushed into place, and there was a small amount of blade play along this axis up and down, which is the reason why it doesn't click in the third position. This has been fixed with version 2. As you can hear, it clicks in all 3 positions, and that was done by making the square end of the tang section to have 2 tangent points. So typically, if it was to be machined on the back, if this is the back of the blade, you have 3 points like that, and they could be milled along here, here and here, and that would allow it to be flat. Now, when doing it by hand, the issue is the file has a tendency to wander. So what I did was file a groove like that and remove this material, and that meant that these 2 points could meet on the back spring, which allowed for a much better sound when moving, as you can hear. In terms of the back spring, it meets the end better, which I just found it to be a bit of a nicer design to get rid of that gap there, because dirt was tending to get stuck in there. And as well, the end of the square tang is closer to the back, which means it's much easier to keep clean. You can get a cloth and wipe in there really easily, whereas here you'd have to jam like a cotton bud or something like that to get rid of it all, which made it quite difficult. Just get that in focus. As you can see, the back termination is completely 90 degrees here, and the centering is dead on both of them. The difference in materials isn't too great. We've still got 2mm O1 tool steel on both of the knives, 2mm in thickness. This one has got the newer one has got a slightly better heat treat. I tested it at 59 HRC, whereas this one sits around 57.5, 58, so it's a little bit soft. The grind work on this newer version is significantly better than the old one. Just with a bit of practice of grinding with the Dremel along this line here to get the long pull was definitely needed. I practiced on multiple bits of metal and basically making a jig so I can run my hand along with the Dremel and get a much straighter line. I also made a filing jig to help assist with the grind, and as you can see, there's a nice sort of rounded out section here where the grind starts, and it's completely flat ground all the way along, whereas this here, as I did it completely by hand, see the grind lines aren't completely, like the plunge lines aren't completely even, and it's not actually 100% flat. It's got a slight curve along this direction. So overall it made this newer version significantly easier to sharpen, to keep sharp, and also its performance when slicing as well was significantly better than the first version. I've got rid of the Damascus for the shield, just because the finish that I got with this, it just wasn't great. Like, you can barely tell there's Damascus in there, because just getting everything hafted smooth and also then etching it and all the rest of it, it proves very difficult, and I couldn't get an even finish every time. So I found it much easier just to inlay O1 tool steel into there as well and then polish it. So yeah, that's it pretty much. The updated version. Keep an eye out on my website for any further build information, and thanks for watching.